just couldn't believe it when I received the email a few days after the meeting. It was just a great shock to everyone, and I think that to speak on behalf of everyone that he was just such a great birdman. And I had heard a lot about him from my part. I used to be on the committee when his dad was also on the committee. And so I'd always heard great things, but it wasn't till the Finch's 17 that I actually got to meet him and talk to him, and just, you could just tell the way that he just sat down and had so much time for anyone and everyone. And I think that's a testament to his character, that he just, whoever you were, he was happy to talk. And I think that agriculture has had a big loss with the loss of Neville Simmons. Did anyone else want to say anything?
Thanks. I've been a friend of Neville Simmons for maybe 20, 25 years. It's a great loss, and it upset me very much that he passed away. For those who don't know, it was all of a sudden, it was a stroke. He was very dedicated to his birds. In fact, he was very passionate about his birds, and as Maddie said, he gave a lot of time for everybody, especially young people, to discuss birds and how to do things and that. It's just a shame, I feel, that not many people got to see his collection, because he had a very wide collection of birds. And the reason for that was that he had a couple of really bad experiences with people going to his place, looking at his birds. He was selling some birds, and he wasn't happy about people going there unless he knew you very well, then he welcomed you. But it is very upsetting, and I spoke to Julie, and his birds are going, not being sold. They're going to people like, I forget the name, Ron Brower, who had the white-bellied bloods, so she's donating them to Ron. And people had interest in birds and share that enthusiasm with him, so it's not going to waste. But yeah, I miss him. Okay, thanks.
I want to just say something too. As you know, it was only 5 or 6 years ago that I became president, and I guess prior to that I knew of Neville. He was like one of those guys who had every species that you ever wanted, and you kind of looked up to him, and he seemed to know how to breed everything, and had all this expertise. As I guess in the past did his dad, Stan Simmons, and I believe a lot of his brothers too. I spoke to Wayne when Stan passed away, and I wasn't aware that he'd been involved in Finch's, and I'm not sure about Clive and who the other brothers were, but I think at one stage they were probably all a little bit involved. Then it was, I guess, when I sort of put my hand up to help out with this club as president, that I really got to know Neville. He rang me, and I'd had many, many conversations with him over the years, about birds of course, but also about the club. Because as you know, he had a huge history. Back in the, I don't know when it was, I'm thinking in the 1960s some stage. He was only a young bloke. Ron James was a little bit older than him. A lot of you here probably haven't met Ron. But the club, they were kids basically, and the club was going to close. So they got a magazine that said the club was going to close. And Russell got their dads going, and that was Stan Simmons in those days. And they decided they'd go to this meeting. Before then they just got the magazines. And basically they ran the club. Well, Neville didn't, he was only a little bloke. But I think Ronnie James and Neville's dad, Stan Simmons, then took over the Finch Society, well not took it over, kept it going and got it going again. So I guess it wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. And then in the mid-80s, both Ron and Neville were living out at Castle Railway, well Ron's Yarramundi, but the same area. And they decided they'd had enough of driving into the city. Oh sorry, before that, the Wollongong branch, Wollongong Finch Club, they helped set that up. And I believe, I don't know whether you remember this, do you, Joe? But at some stage, I know Peter McGibbon remembers it from who's another life member from Wollongong. They used to travel down there, so from Castle Ray when Wollongong first started, so that'd be, I don't know, I think that's late 60s too. That's like 1969 or something like that is when Wollongong started. So they were travelling down there to help set up the Wollongong branch. At one stage they were meeting in someone's house, and then, some tennis club or something, I don't know, various other places. So they helped with that. And then in the 1980s, they decided they'd had enough of this driving around and coming into the club here, and wherever it was at that stage, meeting in Sydney. So they started the Hawkesbury branch, and I think Neville was the president there for 25 years or something like that. It's only in the last few years that he's sort of stood aside from being president there, and he was still very active doing their sales table and various other things. But he was a huge support to me over the 5 years that I was president, and it's a shame that Maddie won't have him to support her too, because his experience running Finch clubs, it's a lifetime thing for him, really. So he was just really calm, sort of, learned kind of a fella who, I really appreciated his support, and I certainly will miss him as well. Is there anybody else who would like to say a few words? Brian, anyone else? No?
Yeah, I've really got to know Neville in the last few years, and some others have said previously, very quiet guy, and didn't really realise how much he really knew until I saw him a couple of times up the front in those panels that asked the panel members, and certainly a very knowledgeable guy, and very happy to share it with you. I was very shocked to hear of his death, and we had quite a long conversation at the last meeting, so I was very, very sad to hear, and really sad for his family as well. It was quite interesting. The eulogy was he had an interesting life, got up to all sorts of things. Gives his younger brothers a bit of a harder time, but I can equate to a lot of the stuff he was doing, out rabbiting and out working out in the bush. And obviously that's where he developed his love of finches, and it was very good of him to share that information with us all. My only regret is I never got to see his place, but as John said, he is a very private man, and it's a big loss to agriculture, and all the best wishes to his family.